Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today we'll learn Masechtas Gittin daf Lamed Zayin. We are going to begin on the bottom of Lamed Vav Amud Beis, the second to last line, my prosbul. So we learned that when it comes to Shemitah, in addition to not being able to work the land, which is Shemitah's Karka, there's also a din of Shemitah's Ksofim, namely that if you give out a loan, the Lova is not obligated to pay you back when Shemitah comes. And because of that, Hillel saw that people stopped lending money. And you can understand if people stop lending, that could certainly affect the economy in general in a very negative way. There's less loans being distributed. And therefore, because of that, Hillel instituted the prosbul, which we discussed in yesterday's daf, and we're going to continue discussing it further. So my prosbul, what exactly is this language of a prosbul? So Rav Chisda, prois bule ubuti. So prois, Rashi says, is a takana for the bully and a booty. A bully sounds like the English word bully is someone who is wealthy, in a powerful position, which is an interesting thing that's what a bully is called. And booty is someone who is like the boot, if you will, and obviously these are not English words, is someone who's poor. So it's an institution for the rich to be able to help the poor, basically. It helps the poor people. As we continue Lamed Zayin Amud Aleph, Buli el Ashir, these are wealthy people. The pasuk says, V'shavarti es goyin uzachem, that it will break the pride of their strength. V'tani Rabbi Yosef elu bulois shebihuda. These are the wealthy individuals, or actually says Ashirim, the wealthy people who are in Yehuda. Buti el hanim, the poor people. The pasuk says Havi tavitenu, that you should lend him money. So buti comes from like havit. Amalei Rava loloiza, my prosbul. What does prosbul mean? Amalei porsa de milsa. It's a takana of the matter. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel Yisaimim in Srichin prosbul. Ve'echem Tani Rama Barachama. So too they said the same thing. Yisaimim in Srichin prosbul. Now, when it comes to someone who is an orphan, they do not have to have a prosbul. Says Rashi Shin Shvius Mishameta Schleiv Alvihin Hames. Their father died, and he was a malva. He lended someone money, and then Shemitah came. So Shemitah is not going to cancel the loan. Don't they need a prosbul? When it comes to Yisaimim, we're lenient. Why? Rabbi Gamliel based dino avihin shel Yisaimim, because Rabbi Gamliel and the Beis Din are considered to be like the fathers of Yisaimim, and therefore they are the ones who are engaged in managing their estates, and therefore for that reason it's ki'u like a prosbul is actually written, because a prosbul is, as we said yesterday, is connecting the loan to the Beis Din. So these some are already connected. It's an anhasa. Furthermore, in koisvin prosbul el al karka. The only time you can write a prosbul is if the borrower, the lova, has land. Im ein lo, but let's say he doesn't. Then what does a malva do? So mizakehu b'tok sadehu kolshehu. The malva could actually say, "Oh, you know what? I have a tiny piece of property. I'm going to say ki'u like you own that." The kama kolshehu. So how much is a small amount? So Rav Chi Barashi Amarab afil kelach shel kruv. Even the smallest amount to be able to plant kelach shel kruv of cabbage, like a small amount of vegetation. Even if you would just lend him enough space, he can borrow the place where he could put an oven or stove. That would be enough to be kaisenal of prosbul. And that's not the case. But Tani Hill ain't kaisen prosbul el al otzitz nokub bilvad. The only time you can write it is dafka if there is a otzitz nokub, a pot which is perforated. Nokub in shen nokub loy. It's dafka in a situation if it actually is, there's a hole in the ground, therefore gets nurturing and nutrients from the ground. However, if it's einu nokub, if it's not, there's no hole in the pot, that wouldn't work. Amai b'ha'ikam kaimai. But didn't you just say all you need to do is lend out a certain amount of space? That it was put Asiche, says Rashi, al gabi yasedos, on pegs, and a karka shlo, and the land is not his. Hilkach nokov havi kamachober. If there's a hole, it's like it's attached to the ground. Shein nokov in kan karka. However, if there's no hole in the pot, then there's also no karka at all. So that's why it's talking about it. There's not a situation where he actually owns the land. Now, what is the reason why the lov is supposed to have land? So this is actually question number 4. Madua ein koisen pruzmal el al karka. Doesn't say it anywhere. It says that's the din, but Rashi answers this question. Only Rashi. Im yesh karka lil loive, if the borrower has land, do tiknu el bezman shachayiv kishar roiv shtaros shenigvin min karka. We're only going to make this takana if it's based on the majority of situations where generally loans are collected from land. Dahabi milsa the shchicha. This is something which is commonplace. If you see in many places. So if this guy doesn't have any land, that's not a normal situation. And therefore, since it's not a normal situation, which is an amazing thing, even a poor person, again, who would borrow money, he at least probably has some land. So on this, Rashi continues, skipping a line, Karka koshu ha'arman afil moy machat goiva moloi kardum kamaisid in Nikita Dabaya, as the Gemara Sua says, even if it's a very tiny amount of property, is sufficient. Okay, so let's look at question 4. So why again does the loiva have to have karka? Do tiknu el kashar rov shtaros shein nigvan min karka, because they're collected from land, and therefore if this guy doesn't have it, that's a milsa do shchicha do avad b'rabbanah takanta. The Rabbanah did not make a takana on a milsa do shchicha. TA5. Be'ez oifen, in which situation kaisen pruzbal al atzit shenu nokov? Are we going to write a ksuba even if all he has is a pot, even though there's no hole in it? Be'ez oifen ein kaisen alav. So he says as follows: Im manach ara, if it's on the ground, kaisen dehamokim moishlnua, because since it's physically on the ground, so even though it's not getting any nourishment from the earth, nonetheless, the fact that it's on the ground, the place where it is on top of that part of the earth, is ki'ilu like the place like renting out an oven or the makom of a kirayim b'tanur. However, if they're on pegs, on poles, and it's not on the ground, and again, it's a atzitz she'enu nokov, there's no hole in it, and you don't own the land, then it doesn't work. So that's a key element of Rashi. The ein hakarka shalo is what Rashi says. Okay, Vaid. So Ravashi maknile gilma de dikla v'kasav leha pruzbal. So what Ravashi did, he basically gave them a stump of a date palm tree, and that was enough to be able to write a pruzbal on that for that amount of land. Rabbanan debe Ravashi masri milayhu hadadi. They actually didn't even write anything. They just gave over their word. Says Rashi, bluk sivas pruzbal. Elokach omer lechaverim hari atem based in your my based in v'chayvi masalachem l'gvoisakol zman shiyirtze. So all they did was make an oral declaration. Even if the pruzbal wasn't physically written, that was sufficient. Rabbi Yonasan masri milay Rav Chia baraba or milay surichna media achrina. Don't you need something else? Or milay lo surichas. You don't need Tanurban. Ein lo karka. So let's say again the lova has no land. However, the arev yesh lo karka, but there was a co-signer, a person who was the arev in case the lova doesn't pay off the loan. So you can go to the guarantor, and that guarantor does have land. So kaisen lo prozbal. That's good enough. Let's say lo v'loive the arev ein lehen karka. Let's say the lova and the arev both do not have land. However, so in that case. So again, you need to have land. So the Gemara says, "V'chayv lo yeshul karka." However, the one who owes the lova money does have land. In other words, you have a situation where A borrowed money from B. Let me say it differently. Reuven borrowed money from Shimon, So Ruvain is the borrower, and Levi actually borrowed money from Ruvain. So you ended up having a situation where this guy, Ruvain, is a lova and a malva. He was a borrower and a lender. So even though it's true that he doesn't have land, however, if, let's say, the person he lent to does have land, kaisin la. So why is that? As we saw before, even though this is something which is a milsa shein bo tam, one of the three things that is a halacha, even though there's no basis for it, Taisus discusses over there. So the din of Shibud Rav Nosson that if A owes B and B owes C, so A can go directly to C. So therefore, for that same logic, just as long as the second lova, if you will, has land, even though the first lova doesn't have land, because you could always go to the second lova and skip the first one, so therefore, because of that, you in fact would be able to write a prusbul on that. Okay, Tanan Hasan. So it says in Masech the Shvuas rather, Hashvius mishametes as hamilve, bein b'shtar bein shel b'shtar, that the Shemitah year will stop alone, and it says whether it's b'shtar or not b'shtar. We're going to discuss what exactly does that mean, bein b'shtar bein shel b'shtar, that the Shemitah will cancel either type of a loan. So Rabbi Shmuel, they both say b'shtar when it says that it will cancel a loan in which there's a document, shtar sheish boyachrayis nechasim. It's referring to a star in which has the achrayis nechasim. It says Rashi shishabid lo karkaisav, that there is a lien on that property. And shalom b'shtar means she'ein boy achrayis nechasim. Kol shekain milval pet. So when it says b'shtar or being shalom b'shtar, really both of them are with a star, but a star is translated as it's considered to be, there's a lien on that property. So when it says shul b'shtar, it's referring to a situation where there is no lien, and certainly if it's a milval peh, that certainly, which is even weaker, so that certainly is going to be canceled when Shemitah comes. So Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Shimon, and the they say b'shtar shtar shein ba'achrayis nechasim. When it talks about a star, it refers to a star without a lien. Shelo b'shtar, when it says shelo b'shtar, is milval peh, which is what it really sounds bepashtus. Shelo b'shtar means there's no document. So therefore it's referring to a milval peh. So therefore only in those two situations is the Shemitah not Meshamet. However, b'shtar sheish b'achrayis nechasim and a Meshamet. However, you have a star in which there is a lien on it. So then, according to him, it's not Meshamet. Why not, right? You didn't collect it yet. So this is the Chiddush. It's like you collected your loan since the karka is right there, and it could be taken at any point. Mashin came by metalton. So therefore, this is the whole reason. Says Rashi, the kigavui dami. The fact that there is land, which there is a lien on it, it's like you can collect it at any point. It's as though those lands are already in the hands of the lender. It's like it was already collected. So therefore, there's no din of loyigois, because it's like the malva already has it. So again, but that's going to be a machlokas when it comes to a star sheish v'achrayis. If there's a lien on it, and again it's a milva b'shtar, whether or not the Shemitah will be misham in that situation. So Hanik was the Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish that makes a distinction in this case. The shtar chayiv mishamet. A shtar chayiv will be canceled. However, it's very clear that if there's a lien on it, that's not misham. As we said, because the land is right here, and therefore they could collect it. Tani idach, we learned elsewhere. Siyim loy sada achas. Let's say you set aside one property, bahal vaso, and a loan, and a mishamet. Then also Shemitah is not going to be mishamet for the same reason, because it's considered, since the purpose of that land is to be able to pay off a loan, so it's ke'il like it was already collected, and therefore that's not an issue. That's why Shemitah will not be mishamet that type of a loan. Well, not only that, elafil kosiv kol nechasai achroyin va'arvoyin loch ein mishamet. If you would have written that all my possessions are achroi, and basically I'm responsible to have to pay you, so then again, Shemitah will not be mishamet, because again, it's considered like you've designated a particular piece of property. It's like as though it's already been collected. Kareve de Rav Asi. We have the relatives of Rav Asi. It says Rashi, Hu Haya Hamalva. He was the lender. Havi Hahushtara. There was a particular document. The Havi Kasebe Achrayas Nechasim. And it was written on it, Achrayas Nechasim, that there was a lien on it. So l'chayri, you would think, what's a machlokas, whether or not the Shemitah will be Mishamet. Also come into Rav Asi, Yamalei, Mishamet or ain't Mishamet. Basically, who do we hold like? Do we hold like Reish Lakish, Rabbi Yochanan, or do we hold like Rabbi Shmuel? So Yamalei ain't Mishamet. It's not going to be Mishamet like Rabbi Yochanan, Reish Lakish. So Shav gave the Asi, would commit Rabbi Yochanan. They went in front of Rabbi Yochanan. Yamalei Mishamet. It is Mishamet. So also Rav Asi will commit Rabbi Yochanan, Amalei Mishamet or ain't Mishamet, Amalei Mishamet. Abahamar Hudi Amar ain't Mishamet. How can you tell me that the loan is canceled, but it's not canceled? You're the one who said that when it comes to a shtar chayv in which there's nechasim achrayis, in which there is a lien on it, so then it's not going to be Mishamet. So how could you tell me it's Mishamet? So Amalei v'chimim nei she'anu medamin nasamaisa. Just because you have something similar. Says Rashi, Nira be'inenu anu kain v'lo shemanu meraboseinu. Something I was heard from my teachers. Nasa ma'isa v'hoitzimenu biyadayim, that you're going to actually take it out with your hands. In other words, the fact that you heard this isn't enough of a reason for you to necessarily support that that's what you're supposed to do. Well, maskana, and end up taking properties away, which possibly should not be taken away. So therefore, again, we're not going to do that. Lamaisa. Amalei, about Tanya Kavase, Damar. Amalei. It was already paskin. It was a statement we found, a bryce in support of this opinion that Shemitah is not Mishamet. No, Dima hi Shamahi. Maybe that's only going to be Shama. The Omer Shtar Omer Ligbas Kagavi Dami. We know, as we see in many places, why Shammai holds regarding Masechta Sotas. We saw most recently that a document or something in which is to be collected, it's like it was already collected. Says Rashi, what is this referring to? It says in Masechta Sota, Mesu Balehen Ad Shloshosu. So a woman was suspect of committing adultery. There was kinoi, there was warning, and she still did it. There was stira, and she was about to go and drink the Mesota. However, her husband died before she drank. So Beis Shammai says, she certainly does not drink Mesota, because Mesota is only if the husband is alive. However, even though he's dead, she still collects her ksuba. Why? Because he holds that the shtar ksuba is ki'il like it was already collected, like any other document. And since that's the case, so therefore she'll collect her ksuba. So to over here, maybe only in this case, where we say, there's a shtar chov, which is nechasim sheish al macharayis, so we say that Shemitah is not mishamit, that's only according to Beis Shammai. Tanan hasan, hamavis chavedo mo'is al mashchein. This is also more in Makos, person who lends to his friend, however, the lova gives him, the malva, a mashkon, collateral, which in turn, it's like he could keep it if he doesn't pay off the loan. So it's almost in some way like payment, that mashkein. Which again is the case of a principal emishamtin. Now bishlam we already said that the Beis Din has the ability to do what it wants, as Rashi says v'hefker and hefker. They have a din of hefker based on hefker. El malvel mashkin my taimo. Why does that work? Why is Shemitah not misham in that case? Amrav mishum the tafas lay, because he was typhus. The malva was typhus onto the mashkoin. Says Rashi v'eino noigshoy v'toiva klum. He's not coming to ask him for anything. So it's not loyigos. It's already in the malva's possession. Let's say you borrowed money, and then you live in his courtyard, the tafas lay, but you didn't collect the money yet. So how does that work? So shani mashkon de kanile. When it comes to a mashkon, the din is the malva, even though obviously it's not real payment because he's just holding his collateral, until the lova pays him back, and then the malva has to give back the mashkon to the lova. But in the meanwhile, it's ki'ul like the malva owns that mashkon, and therefore there's no din of lo yigos, and there's no din of him trying to be toiveya the money because he already has. How do we see that this is true? This is a very famous Gemara we see many times in Shas. How do the Baal Choy, the Malva, actually owns the mashkan? So the din is, let's say he gives him a pillow and he needs something to sleep with, so you should give it back to him that night. So so what does it mean tzedakah? It must be, it's like yours. If it's still the lova's, you're just holding on to it, so why is the tzedakah to give it back to him? It's his. It must be that the malva actually is kind of the mashkain. Tzedakah Hossam. As we continue to Lamed Zayin Amud Beis, it says as follows: Hamakser choy v'chavero, a person who is paying back a chov to his friend, b'shvius, on the Shemitah year, says Rashi, b'zman sheshvius no heges. So Shemitah applies. It's a din deraisa, which means that Shemitah's ksafim is canceled. All the loans are canceled. V'over of Shemitah passed. V'achach echziru. Then afterwards you returned it. So in that situation, Sar Shiarmelo, the malveh needs to say to him, Mishamed ani, right? Mishamed ani, basically saying that the malveh has to say that it's canceled. I canceled it, right? Because he's not allowed to collect it because Shemitah is Mishamed the loan. V'im Omerlo, if he said it to him, if he says Afal Pikain, the Lova says, I know the din, but nonetheless I still want you to take it. I want to give this back to you. So you kabel himenu. At that point, the malv is allowed to keep it. Shnemar v'zed dvar hashmita. So these are the words of Shemitah. It says Sarach shemer dibor shel Shemitah, and that's it. But again, if he says Afal Pikain, so then the malv now can keep it. Omer Rabba v'tali le ad the oimer hachi. So he says that he can hang on it until he actually says this, says Rashi. B'matana ani noislucha, I'm giving to you a gift. B'la mishum choiv. So basically, you could actually kind of bother him, if you will, until he gives it back, to make him to have to save Afal Pikain, so that this way you'll be able to get your money back, even though Shemitah was already canceled the loan. Okay, I'm not getting it as a loan, but as a loophole, I'm getting it back as a gift. When he gives it, don't say, I'm giving it to you this obligation. It's mine, because Shemitah is Meshamed it, I don't have to pay you back. I'm giving you a gift. So totally nami, that's also referring to. Until he says that. You're right, he has to actually say those words. He has to specify that it's actually as a gift. Abba bar marsam duhu Abba bar min Yomi havi masik be Rabba zuze. He owed money to Rabba. So I sinhu nihile b'shvius. So the Lova went, and as we said, gave him back the money on Shemitah. That's what he did. So Amrulay, so the Malva said, Mishamadani, I can't collect, can't take it. Shemitah is over. So Shaklinu v'ozl. So they went on their way, and they didn't give Rabba the money. They didn't say Afal Pikain, like, oh great, I don't have to pay you. So Abaye came. Ashke dahavi otziv. He saw that Rab was clearly upset because he basically lost on all this money that he lent them. Right? And he was hoping that they would say Afal Pikain and give it to him as a gift. So what happens? So he said, do you have, was his money given over to him? And what did Rabba tell you? Right? Did you give over the money to him? Yeah. So what did Rabba tell you? Rabba said that the loan is canceled, and therefore I don't have to pay back my loans. Did you then say, it's okay, I'm going to give it back to you anyway? Give it to you anyway as a gift? No, we didn't do that. So, if you would have said that, he would have taken it from you. Now you should go back to Rabba The Emule Apple Peking. So I want you to go back there and do exactly as I say. I want you to go back and give it to him as a gift. Also, so they went back. Tinu Nihil, and they basically give it back to him. Emule Apple Peking. They said, even though technically I'm not supposed to give this to you as a choiv, I'm giving it to you as a gift. So Shaklinu Minei, so Rabbi took the money. Armu lo habi be daita b'haisur merabanan miikara. So he said, this was obviously something in which was not in the das of the Sumer Rabbanon from before. So again, this is what should have been done originally, but again, this was how Abaye fixed the issue. Rabbi Yehuda Marav, Nachman, Neman Adam Loimer, a person's believed to say that a prusbul hayabiyadi, that I actually had a document, V'oven mimen, I lost it, and therefore I should still be allowed to collect my loan because I had a prusbul. So my time, well, why is he believed to say that Kivanta to get a Rabbanan Peruzbul? The whole reason why it was instituted was that people should lend out money. This guy, obviously, the fact that he wrote this Peruzbul, he was trying to do everything right. Turns out that he lost it. So this guy's not going to end up taking money which was not what he was not allowed to take. If in fact there was no Peruzbul, he did nothing. So therefore, we're going to believe this guy. Says Rashi. The malva, the little prusbul, a maimer havili, he wouldn't have said I had it, ve'avad, ve'achli surah, he's not going to start eating be'isr. So kiyasa kamid Rav, armele, midid prusbul hayalach, ve'avad. So he said, is there a prusbul by you and it got lost? And he goes, psak pichal ilim. In that situation, if someone would, in that situation, we open up the mouth literally of the mute, and we make a taina for them so that this way they'll be able to get back their loan. Tanan, v'chein bal chayiv shemoitzi shtar chayiv. If you have a bal chov that finds a document, the animal prusbul, there's no prusbul attached to it. Hari elu lo yipru. It says you don't collect from it. So what do you mean? If there's the guy says, oh yeah, there's a prusbul, I lost it. We see over here it doesn't collect. So Tanoim, it's actually the Machlokas. Tanoim, the Sanya, Moitzi Shtar Chayiv, Sarsh, Nehi, Imo Prusbul, the Prusbul must be there. If it's not there, it's okay. Next mission. It says the Masnisa. Eved Shinish. So you have a situation where you have a slave who was taken, and this is an Eved Kanani, who was captured by an Akom, Upaduhu, and then you decide other Yisraelim, who are not the masters of this Eved. So this Eved Kanani belonged to a Jew. And then Akum came and captured him. And then other Jew came, second guy came and redeemed him. Now, what is the status now that the Akum has money, and now the second guy who bought him, is he now the master? How does this work? So the Mishnah says like this. If, let's say, and Gemara is going to explain this, that if he purchased him, the second guy, to be his Eved, so he's an Eved. But let's say you purchased him so he should go free from the Akum, which seems pretty logical, right? Whatever the intention of the second guy was, that the second guy, when he redeemed him, was to buy him as a slave, now he's a slave. He intended for him to go free, now he goes free. He says, no, it doesn't make any difference. Even if the intention was for him to go free, still he ends up being his slave, which again, it's hard to understand what that means. Obviously, the Gemara is going to explain it. So, b'ma'askin, what are we talking about over here? Let's say the first owner and the Eved Kanani was captured by an Akum, but the first guy still was hoping to get his Eved back. So, if that's the case, with Shum ben Chayrin amai will yishtabit. If you freed him, so why did he said, I'm going to redeem him from this Akum so he should go free, but why does he go free? Okay, you, the second guy, won't get him, but since it was Lifnei Yish, it should go back to the original owner, original master. El Yachayesh. Must be the first guy was Miyayish. So Lishum Eved amai yishtabit. So if it was for the sake of him being an Eved, why should he be an Eved? So what do you mean? He bought him for that person. Says Rashi, because in other words, we're thinking not the second guy, but he says that you bought him that he should become an Eved, so then why should the first guy get him back? Now, the question is, why would you think the first guy should get him back? It was Achar Yish. Fine. So Omer Abaya Lifnei Yish. So this Mishnah is talking about Lifnei Yish, which means the first owner still is thinking, I hope, even though my Eved Kanani was captured, was taken by an Akum, I'm hoping that one day he'll come back to me. And therefore, he's not like Hefker, if you will. So L'shum Eved, if you, the Redeemer, bought him back for him to be a slave, Yishtabed l'Rabba Rishon. Then he goes back to the original master because of Lifnei Yish, that's the rightful owner. L'shum ben Chayrin, however, if let's say the second guy who redeemed him, his intention was for him to go free, Lo Yishtabed l'Rabba Rishon l'Rabba Sheni. He doesn't go to the first or the second guy. Obviously not the second guy. The second guy did it for him to go free. But why even the first? We'll discuss that in a second. Obviously, the second guy, he redeemed him from the Akam so that he should go free. So obviously, he doesn't want to own him. But how about the original owner? The original owner, it was Lifnei Yish. Why doesn't it come back to him? Because if he knows that if I redeem this guy from an Akum, that he's still going to be an Eved anyway. Okay, fine, he's going to be an Eved, he's going to go to a Jew, but he's still going to be an Eved. So why am I spending all this money to be able to redeem someone when he's still going to be a slave? And therefore, the din is, even though it was Lifnei Yish, the tremendous chiddush is, the din still will be that he will not only, of course, not go to the second guy, because he did it with Shem Cherus, but even the first Adon does not get him back. Because otherwise, no one's ever going to redeem this guy, right? There'll be no incentive to want to redeem him. In either situation, it always goes back to the first owner. Now again, obviously, this is Lifnei Yish. So again, it makes sense in the situation where he did it with Shum Abdus. So his mind was he should go back to his original owner. But why don't we say this notion that this guy may not want to redeem him if he wants him to really go free, but he's not going to end up going free, so then I'm not going to redeem him. Because not only is there a mitzvah to redeem the opinion shvuyin on someone who is a free man, there's also a mitzvah to do it for an eved. So even though it's true, you really want him to go free, but the reality is you need to also be mekayem a mitzvah. Mitzvah of opinion shvuyin is not just for someone who's a ben chayrin, even someone who's an eved. And therefore the din is that you would still do the pidyon. We're not afraid someone's not going to redeem him from the akam. They'll still do it. And he'll end up going to the original owner. Question 5. Eved shenishba upaduhu imushum ben chayrin. If again he was redeemed to become free, lo yishtabed. So we just said. So if it's before Yish, so it makes sense that the first guy again. Why can't he go back to him? The second guy for sure not. The first guy is because Dilma Mani will park. You may not end up redeeming him because what's the point? He's going to be a slave anyway. Sharon Will says no. It's a mitzvah still be poida vadim, just like Bnei Chayrin. Therefore, people are not going to withhold themselves from doing this. Okay. This may also be the same question as TA6. Yeah, exactly. So TA6, Lamed Zayin Mabez, Eved Shenishba Upaduhu Shum Ben Chayrin Lo Yishtabed Madua Lo Yishtabed Lo Rabbo Rishon. Why doesn't he go to the first one? So Labaye Dilma Mamani Vlo Parke Larava Demar Le'ach Yish. So we'll see that as well. So it's a machlokas, but according to this shita, it's Lifnei Yish, and if it's Lifnei Yish, we're concerned that he may not end up redeeming him. That was TA6. We're going to end up seeing the other sheet in a second. Rabbi, and this makes sense. It was after Yish, then obviously he's not going to end up going back to the first owner because the first owner gave up hope in ever him coming back. And therefore, if it was a Shum Avdus, he does go to the second guy. Shum ben Chayrin, if you wanted to make him to go free, obviously not to the second guy, the whole Shum ben Chayrin part, he redeemed him to go free. So obviously he doesn't want to be the Adain. Well, Rabbi Rishanami lo shavi. He also doesn't go to the first guy because since it was the guy was already miyayish, so therefore he's not. Let's kill like he's not his. He's not going to go back for that. Havi. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says no. Ben kach leven kach yishtabid. In either situation, he does go back as a slave, even though it's lachar yish. Why? Debechizkia, because of the din of Chizkia. I must have said Chizkia's name over here. Rabbi Mu'am Ksavar. Ksavar Kashem. Okay. It's right here. Teomer Chizkia. I was trying to look above where Chizkia says this. Okay. Why would we say that in either situation he's still an Eved? So it's a very interesting philosophy because a person will just go and become captured by an akum, and then they'll end up becoming freed from their master. So therefore, we say that he, even if it was Achri Yish, he still has to go back, because otherwise, if he's just going to go free, it'll be an incentive for slaves to be captured by an akum. People are going to redeem him. Once he's redeemed, he'll go free. So therefore, he's not going to go free. It's a mitzvah to also redeem slaves. As we explained, it was before Yish. That's why it says just like, because we're talking about a situation that he'll still be an Eved. It says that it was already after Yish, and therefore he was not. It's not going to technically should not go back to the original master. So Hai Kishem Mishum de Chizkihu has nothing to do with Kishem. It has to do with Chizkiah. It's a totally different reason. It's this whole notion that Chizkiah said that we're concerned that he may end up just becoming captured. So he didn't really know what was being said there. This is what he's saying. If it was because of Yish, Kamrisu, Hanu Kishem. I'm going to stop there. So basically, he's saying you're right. He mentions two reasons. He doesn't know if we're talking about a case of Lifnei Yish, Le'achri Yish, and everyone wants to explain both to make sure it all fits. Adkan.